Good day, YouTube, and welcome. Oh, my hip is out of joint again. Welcome to another.
I just put it into joint. You need to go to the nursing station.
Welcome to another episode of. I don't even know what this is. I guess we're talking about differences between the Arctic and the Subarctic. Now, in the Arctic, we have been to Pavernatuk. However, we do know a good deal about like Inukjuak, Umiak, Saluit, and Cambridge Bay in Nunavut. And to an extent, we know a bit about Sandy Kilowak and the Subarctic. I mean, we are currently in Deer Lake First Nations, Ontario. Beautiful, beautiful reserve. Okay, so we were asked by Dylan to talk about the differences between the two. So I guess
what kind of differences?
I think everything, right? So let's in Nunavik, PUV was wet. It was a wet area. You could buy alcohol in town. You could ship alcohol up from out of town. Very, 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 very wet. And I do see a comment. We will get to it. Deer Lake First Nations, dry. It's a dry reserve. Just like anything else in the world, there's no real dry. It's moist. But a lot of the Arctic is wet or moist. There isn't really a lot of communities that are dry. There are a few, but a lot of them
Nunavut, I think there's more.
Nunavut has more dry than Nunavik. Nunavik, you can get alcohol in town in a lot of places. Kujarapik even has a bar. Kuujjuaq has a bar, and you can buy alcohol at the.
And most of them don't have a lot of restrictions like PUV did.
No, PUV had restrictions of 1 case a day, and by case we mean 12-pack, or 1 liter of alcohol a day, and then you could order 2.
Mom.
You could order 2 things of alcohol, be it cases of beer or bottles from the south per week. Here again, it's supposed to be nothing. But homebrew is huge here, though. But the homebrew here is basically prison wine.
It's worse than that. In some ways.
I've made prison wine. What I've seen, I haven't tried any of it. I refuse to try it. As a person who knows how to brew,
there's a lot of messed up stuff that can go into the
yes.
homebrew.
As a guy who has taught people to brew and knows how to brew, I will not touch the homebrew here, or brew as they call it. It's a milk jug. It's usually water, sugar, maybe some pureed fruit, maybe some Tums, maybe some Tylenol, maybe
cough
some
syrup.
Lysol, some cough syrup, bread yeast, some ketchup, sometimes bread. Not something I want to touch, personally. But I mean, so right there's a difference, right? And a lot of reserves in the subarctic, a lot of the bush areas are dry. There's not a lot of them that are wet.
At least in Ontario.
So that's the main difference in that section. Plumbing. I've been asked about plumbing. Okay, so it's a weird thing, right? So when we were in Nunavik, they could have built pipelines if they wanted to. They didn't, because they said, well, that'll take jobs away. Though my argument was you can teach people to maintain the pipes and repair the pipes and all that type of stuff. But that didn't. So you paid an exorbitant amount of money to have a water truck come to your house and drop water off, and to have a sewage truck come and get your sewage. Your water tank was usually, your sewage tank was usually double the size of your water tank. I believe in Cambridge Bay there is a lot of piped-in water, from what your dad told me.
It's starting, but there's still a lot of houses.
And there is a lot of places in Nunavut that are piped in. Iqaluit, for instance, has a lot of piped-in water. A lot of their piping, though, is above ground. But Nunavik, at least PUV and Inukjuak and Saluit and Umiak, it's all trucked in. So you would have to look at your water tank, see how much water you had, decide if you had enough water for a shower or to do your dishes or to do your laundry. And if you didn't, you had to wait for that water truck. Um, the water wasn't in every community safe to drink. There was a lot of places that were on boiled water advisories where you would have to either buy bottled water at an exorbitant amount of money. And that's not people cheating you, that's just how much money it costs to move liquid on a plane to where you are.
And
Because
then
you're paying by the pound.
water's not considered a necessity,
Yes.
so that doesn't have a subsidy.
So
on
say
it,
say
you pay
like the
full
water
price.
truck dies,
Mhm.
the government isn't going to help you get a new water truck. Your sewage truck dies, that's considered.
What? Harlow, go to bed.
Sorry,
Good
guys,
night.
it is way past Harlow's bedtime, so we thought we would have a good time, but Harlow is doing her. I'm going to come outside every half an hour and try and stay up later. So your water truck would bring you your water again. You'd buy water, or you would go and get filter in jugs and put them in a water system and stuff like that. The water that was brought to you was basically for flushing your toilet, bathing, and doing your dishes and your laundry. Sewage again trucked out. Now where we are right now, the side of the reserve we're on right now, technically everyone on this side of the reserve has their water trucked in except for us. We have our own water system. It pulls from the lake. It filters it through a UV and a membrane. It holds it in a holding tank, and then it pushes it out to the two houses and the store. But everybody else on this side of town, because this side is called town, they are trucked in water. All your sewage is trucked out. Now
We're not.
we're not. Our store is. Our store has two holding tanks that are trucked out. We have a bleed tank. I think the one side has to be siphoned out every once in a while because
They haven't siphoned
no,
it.
he did it a few
He
days
did
ago.
that time. That's the first time they've done it since they fixed that.
No, I
sump
know,
pump.
but what Ryan was saying was the way he thought it was we have a bleeder field for the liquid, and that the solids go into the other side.
But they haven't pumped that out since he fixed that sump pump.
No, but that's because again, it's only your solids going in the other side.
True.
So we are half and half, but we have our own water system. There are a lot of places, like I said, in the north that will have piped water. There's even a lot of reses that will have piped water. The other side of town has water piped in, but sewage is still taken out. Um,
Some of those houses in Duck Lake are still trucked in water too, though.
now,
Only the ones on
now
the
the
main line.
main difference in the water system for me is the truck sizes. In PUV and everywhere in Nunavik had these giant trucks that could do like a quarter to a half of the town at one time and not have a problem. And here they have like flatbed pickup trucks with a little tiny tank on them.
So basically, you can fill one.
Yeah, you can fill one.
And I think their water, I get the feeling that their water pump station here is much slower as a fill. Like in like in PUV, that water truck would be filled in a matter of minutes. Yet that fire truck here took them 20 minutes to fill the
if
truck.
you ever go
down here.
up to the water, like, and we have a lot of videos up at the water pump station in
Mhm.
PUV, they actually had holding tanks there too.
Yeah.
So it would already pull it out and have holding tanks ready that would fill up the trucks, and then you would continue filling while you were out and about. So sewage is a lot the same, but at the same time, a lot of things in the subarctic are piped. We're just not. Why that is, there could be a lot of reasons. We're not going to get into what it could be, but
For this particular res, it's where we are. There's a lot of rock, so it's hard to create piped in, and this is the older part of towns before they had that kind of.
They could go over land too.
They could, but it would cost a lot more. So I don't think they've just ever.
Actually, when you consider going through rock,
From what I understood, this side of town, like the houses down here, were supposed to be demolished at some point, and everybody was supposed to be moved to Duck Lake. But obviously, that's something that would take a long time because houses is a very, very slow process up here.
Okay, so we'll see what comments are there, and then we'll go on to another topic, which is probably going to be fuel. both for heating and for vehicles.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, what do we have for comments? We have Jamie. You got any wildfires up there? Do you feel healthier living in a dry reserve? Um, do we have any wildfires? We've had wildfires somewhat close, but not that
I
close.
think the closest ones right now are like Thunder Bay, Sioux Lookout.
Yes, and Sioux Lookout is still like a 45-minute flight from here.
Yeah. There's nothing
Um,
like in the immediate noticeable area.
no, now this reserve almost went up in flames a year and a half ago. They almost lost the whole reserve. They did.
Did it actually get that close?
Oh yeah, all around. If you go up by the dump and all that, half those trees are burnt.
Hmm.
Do I feel healthier? Well, I've never really personally had a problem. Maybe safer would be a better way to say it.
It's yeah, I would say safer. Like in PUV,
The
like
drunks here, like the
they're
people,
quiet.
they're quieter. They're not as aggressive.
Comparatively.
You had a drunk walk into your store in PUV. They were swinging the second they walked in the door.
Yeah. It was,
Here, they might say something in a Cree or a Ojibwe to somebody, but for the most part, they come in, they try and get their stuff, and they try to get out because they don't want to be
they
known.
see myself or Chad or whatever, they tend to behave themselves. If they're going to misbehave, it's mostly just trying to hit on the girls is the biggest thing. I think is that happens. They kind of sexually harass the girls, which don't get me wrong, not trying to downplay that, but it's not like they're not coming in throwing fists. It's not highly aggressive stuff. It's kind of like that drunk kind of harassment that makes the girls feel really uncomfortable.
But it's the same drunk harassment that you would get at any bar or
Yeah,
anything else.
exactly. It's
And I mean, don't get me wrong. Again, I'm not downplaying it. I'm just saying, in comparison to, I'm going to come in and pull a knife and try and stab you because I'm
yeah,
drunk.
like there's stories from PUV of them having to like lock people in the walk-in freezer to get them to calm down, or putting boxes up in front of them to push somebody out of the store. Like I was sucker punched in the store getting a drunk out. He's had almost got run over by a guy on a bike who was drunk. Like our boss was almost raped in the back room. Like it was much more aggressive and much more like in your face. Here, as creepy as it is when they decide to behave like that, for the most part, store wise, they behave themselves a lot better. Personal life and at home, probably not so much, but we don't get sucked into quite as much of the drama.
Now, fuel. Fuel is the next one. So again, the fuel truck size is much different. The fuel truck sizes in the Arctic, and you know this by, if you're in the Arctic, you end up joining different Arctic
There's big as the
groups.
water trucks.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is there's lots of Arctic groups up there, like Your Voice in Nunavut, Your Voice in Nunavut, your Feed Your Family, that type of stuff. So there's lots of groups, and you can see the trucks from every different community, and they're all basically the same. They're giant fucking trucks. Here, again, little flatbed with a little like 500-liter tank. So you can do one house.
Actually, I think it takes them a couple trips to do our store.
Well, because we have the two
Yeah.
400-liter tanks over here.
But I don't think
and
you
we
can
have the
even
big fuel.
fill the big tank.
No, that big tank over there takes 2 trips.
Yeah.
So
If
that
we
tank
call
takes
when
2
it's
trips,
empty,
and this tank takes a trip. So he has to come 3 times to fill us up here.
usually over the course of like 2 days.
Yeah, and so, I mean, not the greatest idea. I mean, and it's a lot easier to get these vehicles here than it is to get the vehicles there, and we'll get to that once we get to that. But so fuel prices, gas in PUV was actually cheaper than gas here.
It also was more stable.
Yes.
Your gas did not change over the course of a year. It changed every September, basically.
So in PUV, in the Arctic and stuff like that, your gas is brought up on barges. So a big fuel tanker will come up. It'll fill up your town's gas coffers, and then it'll go away. And it'll come back maybe 6 months later.
We get 2.
We got 2. We got one at the beginning of the summer, and then we got topped up again
in October.
Of most Arctic communities are the same. They'll get topped up either once or twice a year. If you're in the far Arctic, like you're in like Arctic Bay, Cambridge Bay, Baker's, Baker's Lake, all that type of stuff, it's once a year. They get up there usually like July, August. Here, our fuel's flown up most of the year. we get winter road fuel on the winter road because we do have an ice road coming into Deer Lake. So again, if you ever watched Ice Road Truckers, anything like that, we have that. Actually, there is episodes of Ice Road Truckers that took place here in Deer Lake. But yeah, so your fuel, you didn't really run the risk of running out of fuel in PUV. You did sometimes have to use fuel stabilizer because your fuel was getting old. But here your fuel is almost always fresh because it's flown up every few weeks, but your prices
Yeah, the
really
winter road stuff
fluctuate.
doesn't last very long because we have 2 gas stations in town. The main gas station in Duck Lake is, I think, the bigger of the two, and he's got like what
Four,
three,
three
four
or four, yeah.
tanks and one pump.
And she has one pump and like one tank, I think.
Yeah, it's very small, so they have to have they run out of fuel very, very quickly. And then the band has fuel tanks for their equipment, and Ballard has fuel tanks for their equipment.
Yes, and the band is the only one with diesel.
diesel.
The band council itself runs the diesel here, and so does Ballard. They have their own diesel. But if you're looking for diesel as just a normal person, Roydale doesn't have it, and neither does Randy. So you're SOL if you're looking for diesel, and it's
you gotta buy it
those
from
two.
The band.
Flights. Oh my God, flights are so much different. First and foremost, you going up to a lot of the places in the Arctic. Some of them are tiny gravel runways. Some of them are very big runways. The very big runways, like we were in PUV, which was a hub. In Nukuak, it also has a pretty big one. Cambridge Bay, where your dad would go. Arctic Bay, huge runways. Jets will go there.
Yeah.
Other places, tiny runways, maybe you'd get a King Air as your biggest plane going there.
Dashes, I think.
Dash 8s, yeah, maybe. But here, your biggest plane is an ATR, which in theory is about the same size as a Dash 8. But your biggest plane for people is like a King Air.
Puddle jumpers.
A King Air will hold maybe 20 people. The thing that comes here the most is like
12-seaters,
12-seaters, 9-seaters, 4-seaters. But the price you're paying is insanely different. A round trip ticket for us to go from here to Winnipeg or here to Thunder Bay would be about $800 round trip. Per person, of course, not the whole family. Round trip from Montreal to PUV was like $4,000, and it was only a half an hour longer flight. And again, you would be on a plane, you would be on a jet, you'd be on like a 737. You would have like 50 to 80 people on the plane with you. Meal service,
yeah.
everything else, and $4,000. But then that's saying like $200,000 worth of people on that plane.
Yeah.
Where here you're getting like $2,000 worth of people on the plane to come here. But the baggage allowances much smaller, much smaller. So you do have that going. Is that if you decide that you're done and you need out, you can get out without fully breaking the bank. Which is great. I mean, your dad's flight from Ottawa to Cambridge Bay is insane because he has to go to Edmonton, then go up.
I think it's pushing like 8 Gs, I think.
Yeah.
And the most expensive portion of it is from
Yellowknife
to
over
Cambridge Bay, because he has to fly from
so
Ottawa to
he's
Edmonton.
Looking at like a 4-day flight. We're looking at a 8-hour day. I mean, in our 8-hour day, we're only on a plane for like 2.5 hours, but it's just your layovers and everything else.
Yeah.
So flights again, and flights from PUV. If you were on the milk run, on the Dash 8, that took you like 7 hours. If you were on the milk run on the jet,
8.
You were looking at like 3 hours. Who are you yelling at? Who's down there?
Fucking dog.
Which
Stray
one?
dog.
Oh.
Pauline hasn't been out here, so they're all starting to wander in.
Yeah, I don't know that dog.
Husky.
Dogs. So big difference in dogs too. In the 1 second, guys.
You let Colleen out and chase the dog earlier.
He knows that I'm gonna let Colleen out.
Is he leaving?
Oh yeah. So never mind. So what I was gonna say here, dogs. Big difference in dogs. First off, big difference in the amount of different breeds you see. There's people here with Chihuahuas. There's Saint
Yorkies.
Bernards. There's Yorkies. There's Chow Chows,
German Shepherds.
Collies, German Shepherds, Rottweilers, and Huskies. But once you pass that tree line, for the most part, you're seeing Huskies and nothing else.
Huskies and Mamlets.
And people feed their dogs and take care of their dogs a lot more than what we saw and what your brother saw and what your dad has seen. And it just... Dog food is expensive up there. It really is, because you got to remember, you pay by the pound.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking at an 8-kilo bag of dog food, well, that's 24, 25 pounds. If you're paying $3 a pound to get it up there, well, now you're looking at $75 just on the bag of dog food to get it there before you bought it from the distributor, moved it to the airline, and then got it up there. Plus, you get into a store, and now you have to make a profit. So you're looking at an insane amount of money, where here our freight is not that much, because our stuff gets put on a truck in Winnipeg.
Mm-hmm. It
gets driven to Red Lake, which is like a 6-hour drive, and then it gets flown here in half an hour. Now, not all northern communities have the same type of airport. We were lucky. We were a hub, so our airport actually had a freight area.
A cargo hold
with fridges and freezers and all that. So if your cargo came in, you didn't necessarily have to be there right away, and they'd have to get it ready and separated and on skids and this and that. And so here, you have to meet the plane. So you get your notification. The airline calls you. They're like, "Hey, we're half an hour out." You meet them there. Communities that don't have a cargo hold, if your plane gets there at 2 a.m., you're there at 2 a.m. to unload the plane.
Yeah. In the Arctic, in Nunavut, the Nunavut stores get flown in at night. So they're usually at 3 o'clock. If you're in like Arctic Bay, your freight comes in at 3 a.m.
Kick is like 4 a.m.
Yeah. And then you still have to open your store.
Where here we usually get our flights between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Usually more in the 7 till noon area. Wilbert's out with his dog. See, this is the other big difference between the Arctic and the subarctic, is you have a yard. We have a yard. It's fenced in. It's rather large. You go up to the Arctic, to Nunavut or Nunavik. It doesn't even matter that you're on a company housing. Nobody has a yard. They don't have fencing. They don't have this. They don't have that. Your houses are pretty damn close together, and since there's no trees or anything else, there's no privacy. There's nothing. Your everything you do is visible to everybody else. Here we have neighbors. There's a few neighbors behind us. There's our good buddy Stan across the way, but now that the trees are in, you can't even see into Stan's place. So it's basically us and Wilbert in this entire little area. Pretty big area. Pretty good size.
A lot of the bush stores are housing compounds for the northern staff kind of deal.
Yeah. So bush stores and subarctic bush stores especially come with, for the most part, a housing complex, a housing compound, if you will.
Some are a little more compoundish than others.
Yes, like we were looking at one in Nain, Newfoundland, and Labrador, and it had a fairly large lot, but your store was connected to your house. But you had a fence, you had your own privacy, you had everything you'd want. I mean, I think that's what I like the most about here is we can sit out here, we can have this conversation, we can do this, we can we can chat her up and everything's good. Bugs. Bugs are about the same, except there's a lot more variety of bugs here. They have like devil bugs, which are some weird beetles that
I think they're almost like a June bug.
they're like a June bug, but they're not.
Yeah, they're not quite as like fat.
The mosquitoes are just as plentiful, except now there's a lot of dragonflies eating said mosquitoes. You have a lot of bees, you have a lot of wasps, you have a lot of hornets. Wasn't a giant hornet that flew at you today?
It was like a giant black, what in Satan spawn that fucking was, but it was gross, whatever it was, and needed to go extinct.
So you have a lot more bugs. Well, I shouldn't say more bugs. You have more variety of bugs in the subarctic than you have in the Arctic. Bees. You do have butterflies, you have bees, you have all that stuff, and it's not stuff you will see up there. Vegetation, huge difference in vegetation. We have trees, we have berries, we have so much different shit here that you would never see in the Arctic. In the Arctic, you get a little bit of like those like ankle shrubs. Maybe a little bit of grass here and there. I have a
garden here, so I mean,
yeah, you have a garden here. No, but what I'm saying is like, what did you have up there? You had some of the grass, but not. It was like crabgrass.
It was like seagrass kind of thing, like the beach grass or whatever you call it.
So you'd have a little bit of that. You'd have a little bit of shrubs, and you had a little bit of arpic, which is skyberries, which actually kind of look like raspberries, but they're yellow.
You had the purple flowers, the Arctic. What were they called? Like Arctic fire flowers or something?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Very pretty, but that was kind of the extent of that.
Seasons. You actually have 4 seasons here, even though the winter season is still your longest season.
It's not really, it just feels like it. Because it just seems to never fucking end. But it actually doesn't when you actually look at it.
But like in the Arctic, you basically had like spring and winter. You kind of had summer, I guess.
Depends on the summer. Our first summer in the Arctic was hot as snot for like 4 weeks.
I was going to say it only lasted a couple weeks, and that was it.
And then the next summer, I don't think we ever got over plus 12.
Now here, we have hit 35, we've hit 38, we've hit 29. Our snow was melted by the beginning of May.
And that was long.
Yeah, they were saying that was a long winter.
That was an unusual thing to have happen.
Usually by the middle of April, you're usually snow-free here. In June, when we brought Aiden up to the Arctic with us, there was still snow. Like, I have video of him learning to drive an ATV, and there's snow everywhere. So, I mean, the seasons are much different. It's a lot nicer. You don't get the 24 hours of sun and 24 hours of dark.
You still have pretty long days here.
You do, but they're not the same.
No.
We're talking about differences, Alicia. Differences, Alicia.
Don't make me knock your fucking hip out of joint again.
My wife likes to threaten me. Mm-hmm. She's mean, guys. She's mean. To the 2 viewers we have, hi. You know, you can ask questions, you can make comments, we will get to them, we always do. I don't know what else differences we can talk about. Food prices. Food prices are hugely different. Now, don't get me wrong, Nunavik versus Nunavut has it a lot nicer because they do have something that Nunavut does not have, which is the KRG subsidies. So you get your nutrition north on your healthy food. And then the KRG, the Kativik Regional Government, would put a subsidy on healthy food, clothing, outerwear, furniture. They would also put a subsidy on things that were traditional, so like lard and stuff like that. And you're like, why is lard? Bannock. Bannock is huge, both for the Inuit and the indigenous.
North America.
The bannock that the indigenous here make, a lot different. They usually make buns or bread or roll it out or wrap it around a dog and make bannock dogs and stuff like that. Bannock pizza, in PUV, in Nunavik, and your dad said Nunavut is the same as well. They do spirals all the time. I don't know.
And they cook it like they'll get a big pot of oil or lard or whatever, and they cook it like a deep fry kind of deal.
Yeah, and here
So
they
it comes
seem to
in
bake it more.
bake or they fry it, but it's fried like I fry it, like in a frying pan. It's similar.
Seafood for both the North and the Subarctic, seafood is huge. And I think seafood is huge mostly because you can just catch it yourself. Arctic char was the big one in PUV and Inukjuak and Saluit. Basically everything along that coast. Arctic char was the big one. Here it's walleye. They actually started a walleye hatchery here. And they started a walleye hatchery because they were noticing that the walleye population was going down, and walleye was their traditional fish of choice. So they wanted to find a way to help the walleye population. That's great. That's amazing. And I think that's the other big thing, right? Like uh, it's harder down here because the band councils are gods. The band council is king and country.
Well,
If you know
if
what I
any
mean.
of our counselors watch this, they'll appreciate being referred to as a god.
But you know what I mean? Like they have full control.
It's not a.
Where
In the Arctic, you run more like a traditional town. You have a mayor, you have sort of municipal employees, right? So it runs like a municipality. Here it runs a little differently. It still runs a little closer to the traditional ways
it's more
that
like a
were done.
republic.
Yeah. They are elected. The chief is elected. The counselors are all elected. Every 2 years, I believe, we have an election this summer.
Yeah, we do.
But they also have an elders board council. So anyone over the age of 65 is considered an elder. And the elders council advises the band council because the elders are the keepers of wisdom. They're highly respected and revered. So they advise on different issues. But yes, they come up with all the bylaws. Really, if you need anything done, you have to go through the band council, and it can be a very political game in some ways if you don't have a really
that's
good
where I was
relationship.
going with.
Yeah.
And it's not for us; it's just for the community itself.
Yeah.
It makes it harder for things to change
It can,
and stuff because first off, your band council can change so quickly because every 2 years, and on top of that, you also have the fact that not everybody's always going to think the same way. Where up in the Arctic, like a lot of change happens rather quickly, where here change happens rather slowly. That being said, here, at least in this reserve, they seem to be very open-minded and want to help their people. Like again, they did the hatchery.
Yeah.
They do all their derbies where they give out as all these different prizes that people can get. If somebody's running short on funds, they'll help you get food. And they're accepting as well. I mean, I'm the most non-native person they're gonna find.
Yeah.
I've been here long enough that I'm considered a member of the community. I don't have a band number or anything to get no taxing, but
Our counselors are
pretty good. Yeah.
They're very progressive in a lot of ways. You don't always get that. It depends on where you go. Sometimes you get it, and that's the thing with being in a bush store is that we're really lucky here. We have a really good relationship with the chief and council. We get along fabulously with them. Some communities struggle a little more. One other community near us, they haven't had a land lease for 7 years because communication just broke down. So they can't renovate, they can't do anything because they can't get in with their band council. The manager there now has sort of bridged a gap and built a relationship with the council to get things talking again, but that's taken a lot of work on his part. So
now, all that being said, I had a point I was going to on that, but I don't even know where it was anymore. I guess that's the big thing, right? Like the Arctic, you're mostly looking at either Dene land or Inuit land. And the Inuit land do the northern villages where it's like mayor and all that. The Dene do it closer to what happens here, where you kind of have a council. And down here, like the Cree, the Ojibwe, the Mohawk, they have their council, which is, you know, your chief, your deputy chief, your counselors, um, and
And then you usually have, actually, because we're one res part of a larger tribe.
yes,
You
you
will
have
have
the
like a chief that's like the chief amongst all of them, kind of thing. He's like the head honcho of the chief's council, kind of thing. I can't remember
yeah.
what
So
he's called.
almost for any of you that watched like
Or she.
Vikings and stuff like
Yeah.
that, right? You'd have all your little town leaders, and then there was one town leader above them all, and so it's kind of like that. Um, I don't even know. What do you guys want to know? Is there anyone even still watching? Did they all leave?
There's two. There was four, and now we're back down to two.
Okay, anyone have anything they want to ask? Anything you need? Weather, so much nicer.
Oh, I love the weather.
There's beaches, there's trees. There's trees. Oh my God, there's trees. I love there being trees. The weather is a lot different though. Like up in the Arctic, you had nothing basically. You'd have windstorms, snowstorms, and nothing.
And wind snowstorms.
Yes. Blizzards, snowstorms, windstorms.
You get the occasional
nothing.
thunderstorm too.
It wasn't often
rock your
though.
house.
Where like
The one summer we did, but yeah, the first.
where here you have the sunny days, you have the cloudy days, you have the rainy days, you have the torrential downpour days, you have the snowstorm days. You get it all. And temperature. I think the lowest we ended up hitting last year was like last winter was like 30, -30.
No, we hit -40.
Did we? I don't
Not
remember.
just a couple days, like, and by the afternoon it had.
Okay, maybe I just didn't notice it because I'm just so used to like the -40 normal before the wind chill.
Here though, I find the winters were actually felt colder because it's a damp cold.
Yes, up there it's a dry cold.
Yeah.
Down here it is a damp cold. People do, for the most part, try to work together here, though.
They do.
If they need something, they'll come to you. They'll talk to you. They'll ask you questions. You try to help out as much as you can. Up there, as much as a lot of people like it because it's kind of like the Old West, it is like the Old West.
It wasn't always a good thing.
So it is what it is, right? Like here, it's more.
I feel here, and maybe it's just PUV was a different breed, but here feels more like a sense of community. Up there, it didn't have that same feel to it. Like you saw more traditional things up there in terms of clothing.
Yeah, your
cooking,
clothing,
stuff
your
like
cooking,
that, their language.
the language, the arts.
But it didn't have the same sense of community.
No.
Here it has.
Well, you had a special word for you, right?
Yeah.
There was a word for outsider, which became a word for white people, and that was Qualinot. And you would get reminded quite often that you were just a Qualinot.
Yeah.
Here, sometimes they make fun of you, going, "Hey, Chad, what's your band number?" And I'm like, "Shut the fuck up."
Yeah.
It's like, but that's more in joke, in jest, not we're trying to make you feel bad.
It's definitely a better sense of community. Even like at the school, the kids didn't have any trouble making friends. They were
Eden,
sort of
Eden was beat up all the time
in PUV.
In PUV, he had knives pulled on him. He's not the greatest kid for making friends because he is special needs. Here, yeah, a lot of his friends are younger than him because he's more on a mental level with the younger kids. But he doesn't really get picked on as much here.
Not yet, honestly.
Most people just kind of leave him alone, right?
Even like they did the food hampers in March for all the kids before March break. The school, our kids were included in that. Like that's not something that would have happened in the last community. It's just you live here and you're
we
kind
gave
of
most of the food that was in the hamper back to the community because a lot of it was stuff that we wouldn't use or the kids didn't like or we already had.
Yeah.
But it was just nice to be included. They're like, hey, Chad, Alicia, come get your hamper. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Come get my hamper. Like, we have like 200 pounds of food for you. I go, is that why my sales have been so bad this week? And, you know, we got it. We're like, hey, that's actually pretty awesome. We don't need any of this. Let's just give all this away. The kids can eat this. We want to eat that. So it was nice.
Yeah. And, you know, like our kids went to the fishing to the Wiener Fest this year. We're doing a fishing derby tomorrow with the band council. So, I mean, we're included in the activities. They had an Easter egg hunt, community Easter egg hunt. You know, everybody said, come on out. At Christmas time, somebody baked me cookies. Actually, I think it was
Jeremy's mom.
Jeremy's mom made me cookies, which was lovely. Like, I thought that was fantastic. It's just something that didn't really happen. It was a much different sense of community.
Yeah, because again, in PUV, like, maybe you'd have some people that would talk nicely to you, but you weren't invited to things. You weren't asked to be part.
You were, but only dressed as Santa Claus.
You're right. Yes, if I was dressed as Santa Claus, I was allowed to be places.
Yeah.
But that was it. Here, they just want you.
Yeah, if they had a dance or something, or you know, an event, no one came to the next day going, "Hey, we missed you here." They'd be like, "Hey, did you come out? Like, did you get to go and do this?" They would have never done that in PV. It's just not how it was.
And I mean, that is not every Arctic community. There is a lot of Arctic communities that will accept you and want you to be part of it. That was the Arctic community we were part of. Like your brother and sister had a better time in Inukjuak than we had in Pavernatuk. They still had their problems in Inukjuak, but it wasn't like...
I think it was more within their problems in Inukjuak, or more within the actual staffing at the store.
Well, they had that break-in and stuff like that too. And they had, you know, their son letting people in that then scoped out the place, because the people that he let in were part of the people that broke in. Like the guy that lives right beside us, older guy, he used to be a cop here. Was born and raised here. Great guy, and he comes and talks to me all the time. He's like, yeah, he actually was joking about adopting our son so that he could take over his house.
Yeah, well, actually, because Aiden was over on that trampoline, and I was like, Aiden, are you supposed to be here? Like, did you ask to come over and play? And his dad was coming over, and he goes, oh, you leave him be, he's fine. I'm like, no.
No, and I mean, there's a big difference too in what you see bought.
What's wrong?
Oh my god.
What?
Shit. Talk.
What?
Just talk.
Talk about what?
I don't know. Something.
What the hell happened to you? Did you pop your fucking hip out again, you idiot?
No, I didn't. But I just got a muscle spasm right underneath it.
God.
Shit.
Should I just take you out back and put a bullet in you? Like, are you done? Like, are we gonna put you down like Old Yeller? Like,
you're just looking for a reason to get rid of me.
Yes, Dad. That's it.
Okay, I gotta try and stand up. You talk.
Talking about what?
I don't know.
What are we talking about?
Differences.
Differences in what? What are your subjects?
Oh, you know, another big difference, and again, this might be PUV only, but your dad says it happened to him a lot too. You don't have as much women or men trying to just steal your partner.
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're pretty respectful of that. I think in PUV they were a little more sexually aggressive in that sense, I guess. But I mean, they were also super possessive of their partners. But then they would you would have a lot of people cheat on their partners, but then they would get mad that their partner cheated. It was like a whole kind of weird rigmarole they had going on there. Yeah, they didn't really care if you were married or not in PUV. They were very much like, well, what she don't know won't hurt her. And here, people are a little more respectful of that, and I don't think you've had anyone openly hit on you, have you?
No.
Oh my god. our people are joining just to watch you in pain. Let's. Oh, that's hot.
I am hot.
Yes, Chad. That's incredibly sexy right there. As you hold the wall for support, trying to get your Charlie horse out.
At least you know the truth.
Yep. Are you done now?
No, it's still there. Okay, what else should we talk about? Has there been any comments? Anything?
I don't think so. Nope.
Wow. You know, guys, when you're live, it's so that you can interact.
There's only 3 people watching.
Okay. What other different... Oh, we've talked about sewage. We've talked about power. We've talked...
I think you were about to talk about the difference in what's bought here.
And what?
What things that are bought.
Oh, yeah. Shit. The second I sit down, it goes again. Up there, cigarettes
Chips.
are the big things. Yeah, cigarettes and chips and pop. But, like, you would have people come in and they're buying their groceries for their family and they couldn't get their cigarettes, so they'd put their groceries back. Here, you don't... It happens, but it doesn't happen as much. It's like, oh, shit, we need our groceries.
I've actually had people take the cigarettes off to buy the groceries. Like, they are more likely to spend on the food for their family, which is phenomenal. I love that. It's unfortunately not something that we saw a lot in PUV.
And toys
really
for kids
sad.
and stuff are huge.
Yeah. Seafood was huge in PUV, but not here. Like, you could sell the scallops and all that stuff, but you can't sell that here.
No, you can't sell anything seafood here, but I mean, why would you buy seafood from us when you can get...
Well, they could get the Arctic
seafood for
char
free?
and that, but it's... But, and meat. In PUV, we didn't sell necessarily a lot of meat.
No, here it's meat.
Yeah.
Meat.
And it's a lot of, here, I find it's a lot of, food that, like, my parents both grew up poor, and it's a lot of food that poor man's food. It's you know, hot dogs, Kraft Dinner, bologna, like stuff that my parents
the amount of
grew
bologna
up on.
The amount of bologna and wieners I can go through.
Yeah, it is like that. Corned beef hash, like it's stuff that is really, it's poor. You're gonna be able to stretch a buck on it, right? Like,
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it.
No, there's nothing absolutely wrong with it.
I mean, I don't
It just
like
kind of
bologna.
reminds me of, like, my childhood and what my parents grew up eating.
I like
that.
Kraft Dinner.
I hate Kraft Dinner and I hate bologna, but but that is a lot of what we sell. It's a lot of but we do sell a lot of meat and stuff. Like the meat packs and that go really fast.
I can't get meat packs.
Yeah, have we found out what's going on with that?
No idea. Keep ordering them, keep not having them show up.
And you haven't put a ticket in for ordering?
Not yet. I will, though. I don't know what else to say. Store was neglected for a long time, but at the same time, it's not as bad as the one we were at.
No.
Which was neglected for just about the same amount of time, but the harsh
Maybe
weather...
longer, honestly.
No, they both had everything at about the same time. I think it's just the differences in the harshness of the weather. And the harshness of the people. Like, you couldn't have anything nice there. Like, we opened up that brand new store. Within the first week, people were breaking things in the store.
A lot of them were fucking fall down drunk. So.
Yeah. Where here, you know, you get something nice and everybody's like, ooh, that looks so nice.
Yeah. Like I said, here is a little more... I love it here. I think this is an amazing community.
You just heard an ATV go by? That's the first ATV I've heard in a while.
You don't see too many on the roads. Most people have vehicles here. ATVs are really just to go out to your camp, go out hunting. Same with the skidoos. generally speaking, most people don't just drive their skidoo around the streets. In the Arctic, that's your main transportation is a skidoo or an
Yes,
ATV.
and what I was saying was it is cheaper and easier to get vehicles here because you bring them up on the ice road. So it only takes a couple, like it's like a 9-hour trip.
Yeah, what they do on Winter Road, there's a guy in, I think, Red Lake that they purchase vehicles from, and he gets the vehicles ready. They get somebody with a license to drive out, pick the vehicle up. They'll pay that person so much money, and the person will drive the vehicle back for them. I could make a killing driving vehicles if I wanted to. If I was brave enough to drive on the Winter Road. I don't think I'm quite there yet. I just, something about driving on wavy ice.
Now, and people have asked before, you know, did you want to stay in PUV? We only wanted to stay in PUV to hit our plan, to make our goal.
Yeah.
Here, I actually could stay here. I can see myself be here for several years.
I don't mind it here.
And I mean, yeah, you don't have a restaurant. You don't have this. You don't have that.
We have a restaurant?
Well, we have a restaurant, but it's in our
we have
store.
A KFC. Listen, we have a KFC Express. You eat at it regularly.
No, but you know what I mean, right? Like we don't have the co-op restaurant. We don't have this. We don't have that. But at the same time, it's so much nicer.
I cook better than most of what was cooked at that co-op restaurant anyways.
I agree with you, but it was nice to just not make food every once in a while.
Yeah. I had that in Winnipeg.
Yeah, fuck you. I went to Winnipeg and left you here with all the kids and all the responsibility. And I missed our anniversary. And guys, we've been together forever now. Not really at all. But
5 years. Well, married for 4.
What do you want?
Mom, is when's bedtime?
Now.
Good night.
Go brush your teeth, buddy.
Why is it Mom's when's bedtime?
Because I've yelled at him to stop coming out here.
Yeah, but every time he comes out, he says Mom.
I know.
But I don't understand. You're always the one to tell him when to go to bed, not me.
Because he feels.
Because let's face it, if it was up to me, he would have been in bed like 4 hours ago. I'd been like, it's bedtime, 7 p.m. Go to bed.
Well, nobody's asking questions. Somebody's interact. Oh wait, we don't.
No, it's the same.
Okay, so I guess I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to know about differences. Let me know, and we'll do it. Anyway, from Deer Lake First Nations, Ontario. Bye-bye.